this month, I have 3 questions that we selected that I believe are going to be very useful and timely. They all will be. So let me just give you a heads up and tell you the 3 that I'm going to be answering. Number 1, and again, these are questions that I receive, and we carefully select the ones that we believe are going to be the most impactful collectively. So here's the first one. What is USCIS doing to prevent large fraud during the fiscal year 2025 H1B cap lottery? Second question, my visa stamp expires March 2024. Do I need to take any action for my employer to enter me into the H1B cap lottery? And last but not least, 3, how does an employer prepare for the mandated USCIS worksite visits? Okay, so let's get started and hope you are stay with me. So I'm going to be covering a lot of ground fairly quickly. So first question, what is USCIS doing to prevent large fraud again? And I'll give you some feedback to the again in the fiscal year 25 H1B cap lottery. So a little background. To retain top global talent, many employers use the H1B work visa, which has an annual cap of 85,000. 85,000 H1B visas is not enough, and it hasn't been enough to meet the demand of U.S. employers for this visa category. As a result, every year for as long as I remember, our government has conducted a lottery to determine who gets one of those coveted H-1B visas. The nature of the lottery is such, there are such a desirable visas that many stretch the limits as to ways in which they can improve the chances of winning an H-1B visa. And in 2023, I think the limits were pushed way beyond what was reasonable. And in search for ways to obtain one of those visas, some very creative ways came about, including some illegal ways. And DHS, after doing an investigation as to what happened, again, last year's cap, they disclosed that more than 52% of the total submissions were for candidates, H-1B candidates with multiple registrations. And this is not what was intended when the lottery was created. So this is just a little background. And now to answer the question, what is USCIS doing to prevent this from happening again? Well, I have to, give kudos where it's due, and I believe that DHS took a very strong approach to combat the abuse that happened last year, and are doing what they can to prevent the same that happened last year this year. So last year, after what happened and the many double and triple and quadruple entries, DHS undertook an administrative fraud investigation into the multiple submissions that happened, which actually resulted in revocation of many registrations and even a second lottery. Those that were investigated, some of those were DHS made referrals for criminal prosecution for those that were expected to have violated the process. Now, what are they doing now for this year? So one, hopefully what happened last year and those were criminally prosecuted and all of that has created, a heightened alertness and a sign that, this is not to be done again. But in addition to that, DHS is changing the process, which is good and bad because to some degree, we still don't know. And it is, as I'm recording this, is Sunday, January 21st, and we still don't know what is going to happen for this CAP season. But as to what they're doing, they are, in addition to what they did last year, now they're working on a new H1B modernization rule, portions of which are expected to go into effect for this CAP season, which will make the registration process more candidate-centric and will limit or diminish the number of more than one registration per candidate. I did a video on the H1B modernization rule, a short practical video. So if you have not watched that, you can go to, and you're interested, you can go to my YouTube channel. It is MarksGray Immigration, I believe MarksGray Business Immigration YouTube channel. I should know better what it is, but you can look me up, Giselle Carson, H1B modernization rule. And if you're interested, you can watch that. Also, and something that USCIS just announced, and it scares me a little bit because we still don't know what is going to happen, but they're going to be implementing a process that requires the creation of organizational accounts by employers that would also limit the more than one registration, and they're going to be allowing or implemented online filing for I-129 H1B petitions, which has never done before. So all of this is to be continued. But again, the short answer to that question as to what they're doing, several initiatives have been put into place to prevent what happened last year. And I do hope that this year we're going to have a more fair, if we can call a lottery for work visas fair, but the process, I believe, will benefit those that are doing the right thing, the employers and the foreign workers that are only entering into the lottery once. And again, I believe it would give better chances to those that deserve them. Okay. So that's that for the first question and answer. The second one is, my visa stamp expires in March 2024. Do I need to take any action for my employer to enter me into the H1B CAP lottery? So let me again give you a little background because these questions are in the vacuum, and I want you to understand a little bit of the background before I answer the question. So first, the question answers about a visa stamp. My visa stamp expires in such and such a day. And I want to clarify, a visa stamp, the one that the foreign nationals get at a consulate abroad in their passport, that denotes their work visa category, for example, an H or an L or an O, those are different than the passport ID page, which is very relevant to the H1B CAP. Okay, so if your visa stamp expires in March 2024 or at any point, the visa stamp is not determinative of whether you can enter or your employer can enter you into the lottery or not. What is determinative and what is going to be very, very important is that the passport of the candidate that is going to be entered into the lottery is current. So having a current or valid passport ID page will be key for registration. So for those of you that are listening, employers and foreign nationals, make sure that your candidates' passports are current, okay? So the visa stamp is more like a travel document, if you want to call it that. So it allows the person to ask for admission into the United States, but it's not determinative of whether you can or cannot be entered into the lottery. Okay. The last question, and this is actually have a pretty extensive answer because it's a very hot topic, and it requires, I'm going to give you a lot of information. And the question is, how does an employer prepare for the mandated USCIS worksite visits? Again, giving you a little bit of background here, USCIS H1B compliance visits have been happening since 2009. However, as a result of the changes that are happening to the H1B cap, or the H1B modernization rule, we're going to see, or employers are going to see, more of this USCIS worksite visits, where basically a USCIS officer shows up at the worksite, and it could be a home worksite these days, so it can be pretty scary. We're going to see a lot more of those. And this question came as a result of a visit to one of my clients. And they were like, okay, how can we prepare better? So this is in response to that, because I believe it will be helpful for many employers to know how to prepare. So this compliance review visits, they're stressful, they're time consuming, and they are unannounced. And employers should take note of how to proactively prepare. So pay attention, employers, this is for you. As part of these visits, immigration officers in the fraud detection and national security unit, which is called, in short, FDNS, they show up at work sites, again, unannounced, to collect information. The visits last anywhere from 30 minutes to an hour, estimate. The officers are tasked to collect information, documents during these visits. For example, they're going to be verifying the information and documents that were submitted as part of the petition. They're going to be reviewing public records, government records, employer records during these visits, including the public access files, W-2s, pay statements, H-1B petition, and others. They may be taking photographs. They may be taking photographs of the workplace. It could be the workplace again. It could be a home office now. And they're going to be interviewing personnel, such as the HR, the person that signed the immigration documents, the candidates or the foreign workers manager, and the H-1B beneficiary. Okay, so that's kind of an overview of these visits. Now, these visits are a little bit more challenging for USCIS and the employer. So not just for the employer, but for USCIS and the employer if there is a remote workforce in place, okay? USCIS is going to have a much harder time also. It's not that you're just going to show up at a workplace like they used to, and they were able to get all the documents they needed in one place, interview everybody in one place. Now they're, people may be in different places. So that makes it a little more challenging on both sides. So for those with a remote workforce, and frankly, for any employer that could potentially get one of these visits, and again, they are happening and they will continue to happen, employers and their managers, so HR should understand that these visits will happen and proactively be prepared when the immigration officers knocks on the door of a resident. And again, this can be scary. So if you are an HR professional that is managing a remote workforce, you can actually, when this H-1B petitions are filed, you can tag me on this, 10-minute talk, and just let them know, this is your preparation. This may happen, and I want you to be aware of what's happening or what could happen. So imagine an actual home visit at your house from USCIS. It will be alarming. So here is my little best practices recap as to what you should be doing in preparation during the visit and after the visit. So prior to the visit, have a plan. Obviously, you're already listening to this, and it's going to facilitate a plan. Alert the receptionist or whoever will be the person that received the phone call or the visit, actually the visit. Let again HR, the petition signatory, the H1 beneficiary, that this could happen. Identify the point person. Is it going to be HR? Is it going to be the manager? Who is going to be the point person? Know the location and accessibility of the H1B petition and the public access files. You should know that if you have someone that that covers you when you're not there on vacation or something else, someone besides HR should know what these records are. And prepare a call sheet as to who to notify if a government visit, like a USCIS H1B visa visit takes place. And hopefully this list includes your immigration counsel. Just let us know. If nothing, we can help you through this. Okay, now what happens during the visit? What you should know, what you should do. Confirm the nation of the visit. This is a FDNS USCIS H1B visit. Request and record the officer's identification, such as their name, their badge, their phone number, email. The officers should not be allowed to wander around the premises or interview employees at random. Typically, the visits relate to one person, not a few. So just one person at a time, meaning a candidate or an H1B worker. So if possible, review the file of that foreign worker before speaking to the officer. Officers typically focus on a standardized checklist. So they have a checklist of things that they need to accomplish during these visits, which could be helpful. I don't have that list for you, sorry. Prepare and present, the records to the officer. And if you're asked for records or information that you do not know or understand what they're asking, please ask for clarification. And if you're asked for records or information that you do not have, it is okay to say, I don't have that at this time. Please provide me with how can I provide you with that information later? Where can I send it to? And then keep notes about the visit. It is important for you to remember and share with your counsel, what happened, the date, the worksite location, the records that were requested, who was interviewed. This will help because it will happen again. So it will help solidify in your world kind of what happened and how you can prepare better for the next time. What happens after the visit? So after the visit, USCIS will review the information that was collected by that officer and may refer the case for further investigation if they deem it necessary. You may also receive a follow-up call or a follow-up visit or a follow-up email to request additional information. Typically, it's not a visit, it's either a call or an email. But again, future visits are not uncommon. Enforcement actions are a priority for immigration agencies, and they will expand under this modernization rule. So I hope this was helpful. I know I cover a lot of information in a very short time. And I'm grateful and thankful. I'm here for you. And I want to make this as practical as possible for you. So please continue to share with me what kind of training and information you need and welcome. And I will do my best to select the best questions that will, provide the most benefit for all. So with that said, thank you for joining my Q&A with Giselle. Your questions drive the conversation, and I appreciate your engagement and your questions very, very much. So stay informed, connected, and tuned for next month episode. Again, I already have lined up questions for February and March. They're really good. So stay with me, stay connected as we continue to unravel the complexities of business immigration together. Until next time, bye-bye.